This is Unit 1 of Introduction to Marketing, and in this unit, we will be introducing what is marketing. We'll talk about branding, influence, and consumer awareness. The essential question, this is what I hope my students can answer by the end of the unit, is what is marketing and how does it influence our everyday decisions? The objective is that students can explain what marketing is and identify how it influences consumer decisions. I always include a teaching guide with all of my instructions so you can pace out what it is that you'll be doing and know exactly what's coming on each of the individual days. This particular unit takes about 8 days from start to finish. We open by asking students, why did you want it? Think about something that you wanted recently. And I always give them probably about 30 seconds to think quietly. Otherwise, they all start talking to each other and then they're not really thinking for themselves. They just listen to what it is that their peer is saying. So think about something recently: shoes, food, an app, clothing, something that you saw online, a video game. Why did you want it? And then did you choose it or were you influenced? Is it a thing where you actually wanted it or were your friends doing it and you got influenced to do it? Marketing is influencing decisions. So it's the general idea of a business going in to persuade you as a consumer to make the purchase and choose that business as your choice. Where are consumers being influenced in this image? So I have an image of a grocery store, and there's all kinds of different opportunities for responses. It could be at these checkout aisles where there's the kiosks with the candy bars. You could even go in and dial it in and say the lower areas are more colorful for the kids, the higher areas are the more natural, healthy options for the adults. And then we could look at the end kiosks or the end caps of each of the aisles where you can see the drinks. Those are your last minute opportunities to grab something on your way out. Marketing is everywhere. It's not just when you're shopping. And so my hope is that I can get students to realize that even as they sit there in class looking around, there's logos all around the place, whether it's on their shoes or on their sweaters, or it's on their computer or their Chromebook or their coffee cup or even their lunchbox. I have them then find 5 examples of marketing in their daily life. I personally use a application called Pear Deck, which allows students to interact with these slides digitally. If you don't use that, you can just call students out on this. But with Pear Deck, they can then type in their 5 examples as we go in real time. So think about things like school, social media, stores, home, friends, and more. Be ready to explain how is it influencing somebody's decision. So if marketing influences decisions, what do you remember most? What are the things that stick with you? What is something where you see it and you're like, yeah, that is something that I would like to do? For example, my son plays baseball and the big bat of the year is called the Hype Fire. Everybody wants the Hype Fire. Well, it's a $400 bat. He's 8 years old. I'm not saying that that $400 bat won't give him a little bit more pop or allow him to swing a little bit faster through the ball. But at the same time, does he really want it because of the pop or the faster swing, or does he want it because he sees the students that have it that are his peers and he thinks of it almost as like a peer pressure system? We ended up finding a bat that has a similar kind of aesthetic to it. It's called the Easton Mav 1, same brand, similar color scheme. And he's like, this is rad because I can have my own individual style. He doesn't care about the pop or the speed. Obviously, it's still a good bat, but it's also $250 cheaper. So, what is a brand? A brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or a company. It's the way that that business makes you feel. For me specifically, Costco makes me feel different than the way that I feel when I walk into Target. I don't like walking into Target. I don't like the bright colors. I don't like all of the marketing and the imagery and everything that they have throughout it. Costco is just a straight up warehouse. I am their ideal target market based on all kinds of different demographics about me. So, what does gut feeling mean to you? It's the way that you feel about a business, product, service, or company. So on this slide right here, I have them start to think about what comes to mind when you see this logo. And I always have a logo of some kind of a recognizable business. For example, let's say Nike or TikTok or whatever it may be, but for brand infringement reasons, most notably with Teachers Pay Teachers, I can't include a logo on there. And you'll see that throughout this slide deck and also admittedly throughout this semester I can't put the exact logo on there, so you'll see some things that look resemblant to popular logos, but not quite the exact same thing. So here we go. With this opportunity, let's say it's Nike or Starbucks or Apple or Amazon or whatever it may be. What do students immediately think of when they see that logo? Branding. What does a brand actually do? Well, a brand helps people decide faster. It lets them say, like, that's what a brand does. It helps you decide faster without too much thinking. It's the way that that brand makes you feel. Do you actually remember brands or do you just think that you do? We're going to find out. we do a logo memory challenge. And do note for teachers out there, this is one of the items where you would want to have some index cards that are ready to go, at least 4 index cards per student. Or if you wanted to, it would take another like 5 or 10 minutes of your time. Have the students take a sheet of paper and rip it into 8 different sections. I say 4 index cards because you have them rip it in half. Additionally, there is a Google Doc that is hyperlinked into the notes here. It'll also be in the hyperdoc for the Teachers Pay Teachers total downloadable information sheet as well. And so on that item, it has different logos that students will have to draw from memory. And so they draw the logo from memory. Let's say it's the Google logo. They draw it from memory, and then around the room, I would paste up the word, for example, Google or Nike or Chipotle or Starbucks or whatever it is, all throughout the room. Students are drawing that brand from memory to the best of their ability. Once they are done, they take that logo drawing and then they would walk up and they would tape it, or if you put it on desks, you would put it on the desks of where that word is for it. So then you have all of the Starbucks logos in one location, all of the In and Out logos in one location, so on and so forth. I always make sure that I emphasize no phones, no help. Do this from memory. Be precise, and details matter when we do this. Once all of the logos are in place, and this could take almost an entire period, once you have everything in place, you can then have a group of students that's within the realm or area of where all those logos are. Organize them from most accurate to least accurate once you give them a copy of the logo, which again, I've included in the teacher notes here. And the goal with all of this is for you to see like which logos were easiest to remember, which were harder, what details did most people miss. And the bridging concept here is that companies are spending millions trying to make their logo memorable. So why doesn't it always work? It is worth noting that this activity was modified from a young entrepreneur's website, and it is a resource that I have adapted and made modifications to. But I want to give credit where credit is due. So after that activity, we start on a new day. Why should companies care about logos? Well, they help people choose faster. If I have a brand that I am brand insistent about, like I love Kirkland Signature, I know I'm going to get some kind of a quality item if I'm buying something that is Kirkland Signature or other types of brands out there that I am personally fond of. If I see a comparable item and it may be a couple dollars more expensive to get that brand that I believe in and I've had positive experiences with before and I have that good gut feeling about, I'm more likely to buy that brand over the competition. Brands communicate without words. You don't even need to read a logo. You could just feel something. If you saw those logos and you didn't read anything, but you would still have an opinion about them. Why should companies care about the logos? Well, again, like I said, it helps you choose faster. And we're going to do a demonstration exactly of what I mean by that. Color me crazy. View the color palette on the following slides and guess which companies use these colors in their marketing. Here's the first one. I have students just start to, actually I have them type in the Pear Deck on this one, but if you don't have Pear Deck, students can raise their hand. And then once you think that you have a good amount of hands up, you can call on somebody, but make sure they stay quiet because they will influence other people's behaviors and decisions, just like marketing is intending to do. Quickly, people will notice that this is not Subway, but Busway. Again, I cannot use the logos in my slides, so I needed to modify those logos for trademark infringement and whatnot. Here we go, moving on. Starbucks is the next one up. They just see the colors, they instantly know what it is. St. Arbucks. I thought I was pretty clever when I made this one. What's this one? Takes students a couple minutes, maybe not minutes, a few seconds. Pepsi. What is this one? If you're a one-to-one school, more than likely you probably have a Google Chrome logo on the computers. They'll quickly see it and identify that this is, in fact, not Giggle, but Google. Yikes. I did what I could. So why do they care about the logos? Well, they help you choose faster. Would a logo influence your decision? Yes, it does. The basic coffee shop might charge $1.50 for a basic cup of coffee versus the major corporation that has the brand market share of all coffee in its grasps can charge whatever the heck they want, and people will keep on shopping there within reason. On the next slides, I have my students just take a brief look at the slide and they have to tell me what are their initial thoughts, like without thinking about it. What is it? What comes to mind right away? So, what are the first words that come to mind for the real brand that this reminds you of? I know. I can't use Chipotle's actual logo. So we use Chipoodles, the Mexican grill of Chipoodles. What comes to mind? Student will rattle off a bunch of different things. Well, if I was a person in the marketing team for this particular business, Chipotle, I would want to know. I would want to be like, well, what are people saying? What is their gut reaction about me? And if there's anything negative, how can I make modifications to get rid of that negative connotation? The next one up is Walmart. Save money, wag better. Yeah. Pineapple. Think different, stay fresh. What are the first words that come to mind? Students rattle it off. It's fun, it's engaging, and actually, to be honest, with these fake brands up here, students do laugh, and when you get kids to laugh, it tends to be more fun. So now that we've thought about different logos, we've thought about these brands, what do the students actually enjoy? I have them list 5 to 10 different things that they enjoy doing. These are their hobbies or interests, the things that they spend time on. I have them do this on a sheet of paper, and they actually have to write out 5 or 10 things that they enjoy doing. What is it that they like to do in their pastime? Because hopefully they can make a career of that. And if money didn't matter, what business would they start? No limits, no budget, no fear. Use this to brainstorm a bigger project. For my classes, in every single one of the 4 classes that I teach, which are personal finance, intro to business, intro to marketing, and entrepreneurship, I have students work on a full semester long project. In this case, it is where they are creating the full on marketing campaign for a business of their choosing, of creation. This is not something where they revitalize a brand. We do a revitalization of a brand activity throughout the semester, but this is not it. This is the full semester springboard. They got to make sure that they pick something that they enjoy, which is why I have them think about the 5 or 10 things that they enjoy doing so that we can use that idea to piggyback off of what business they might consider starting if money was no object. They need to choose this business carefully because it will be their business moving forward. If you are only buying this as an individual unit item, then you don't need to worry about them being as specific and serious about what business they're pursuing because it doesn't necessarily matter in that case. But if you are following the full semester, you want to have them build and develop this throughout the unit because beyond this, it will go for the whole year long. These are the questions they need to ask now that they've come up with that business idea. Describe your customer. What is your customer like? What are their hobbies or interests or lifestyles? Who are they? What are their ages, incomes, situations? And we talk way more in depth about this later on in the semester, target markets and the 4Ps and all the market segmentation and all those things. But those come at a later date. Now that they know who's going to buy their type of a product and describe their customer, what would they call the business? Because it needs to be a name that's relatively catchy based on what it is that they're selling. Create a name that fits your customer. Who is it for? What do you want it to feel like? As you start thinking about what you want it to feel like, you also need to think about what do you want it to look like? Are you a fun and playful brand? Are you clean and professional? What colors fit your business? What's the vibe? What's the style? What type of font would match your consumer's preference? Is it playful? Is it that fun? Or is it professional and elegant? With those pieces in mind, now we need to create a slogan. What should people remember most about your business? You've got the name, you've got a slogan. For example, the slogan could be Nike's Just Doing It, or Just Do It, or McDonald's I'm Loving It. So, what problem do you solve? What makes you different? And make it short and catchy. If somebody was to walk past your business and only saw one sentence, what would it say? With those pieces, now we want to begin building our brand. Even if you're not doing the full semester project, this is a great activity. It's embedded within the guided notes for this unit where you create a business name, write out a slogan, and then design a logo. I would recommend you design your logo using Canva's logo maker, and I've hyperlinked it here within the slides. Make sure all 3 match your customer and the brand style. This concludes the instructional piece as well as the major activity for the assignment that gets tied into this full unit. But I close this out with a fun competitive bracket style competition that I call the greatest brand of all times. I also do a greatest product of all times in my introduction to business class, but because this is marketing, we do greatest brand of all times, the G Boat. With the G Boat, I give students 1 minute to think of what their greatest brand of all times could possibly be and why. Once they have that, I have them in groups of no more than 4 to share within their group, and I have them whisper so somebody doesn't steal their idea. For 3 minutes, they share and identify what they believe to be the greatest brand of all times. I go with a clipboard and a sheet of paper and a pen, and then I have the students raise their hand, and then that student will say for their group, on behalf of their group, we would like to do this brand. Once I have that brand, I check it off. That brand is now taken. I then give students, once I have all brands identified, a minute to discuss, select. I apologize. Actually, it has already been discussed and selected and approved by me as the teacher. Once everybody is approved, then I give them 12 minutes to create on a sheet of paper, a or poster paper if you have that, the support to their selection. And their goal is to be persuasive. How can they persuade the audience that their brand is in fact the greatest brand of all times? It doesn't have to be in fact the greatest brand of all times. In fact, it could be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be Apple versus Netflix versus Facebook versus YouTube. You could pick something funny like a toilet brand or whatever it might be. If you can persuade the audience to pick your business as the greatest brand of all time, then you've done your job. I'll run this in a bracket format. So if I have 8 teams, then I'll have a 4v4 on each side of the bracket, and I'll actually stagger and stack rank the teams so that they're competing against their most similar competitor. And then it gets really heated because as we dwindle down the most persuasive, greatest brand of all time, when we get to the final round, I allow them to do a tiebreaker. It's worth noting, I forgot to mention this, each team gets 45 seconds where I'll hold up my cell phone and I'll set a timer for 45 seconds and I'll show it to them while they're presenting. 45 seconds to persuade the audience that they are the greatest brand of all time. And then the team, right after both teams go, the class votes on which team was more persuasive. I use Pear Deck to do the polling so that it's kind of anonymous. If you don't have Pear Deck, then you could say, team A is thumbs up, team B is thumbs down. That would maybe get a little bit sad. So maybe team A is thumbs up, team B is pinky up or something like that, right? So you're not being punitive, if you will. And then you tally up who is winning. That team moves on. They advance. Once you get to the final round, I do give them an opportunity for a rebuttal. I do also allow for some respectful shade throwing so that they can kind of like jab at the other brand as to why they don't believe they're the greatest brand of all time. And at the end, once we have the victor, I take my championship brand. I usually give them something like candy or something like that as the winner, but mostly it's all about bragging rights. It gets heated, it's competitive, students love it. It is definitely worth your time to run. And then we close out this full unit by assessing what it is that we learn. Marketing equals influencing decisions, branding equals helping people decide faster. Marketing is everywhere, and consumers are constantly influenced. How will your brand influence your consumer? Now they can start building their own brand. They then go on to work on their guided notes in anticipation of the quiz, which they would take on the following day. And at the end of that, I have them do an exit ticket on the way out the door to help refine my future instruction. And these slides have been refined over years. What helped you learn most in this unit? What is still unclear? And one suggestion for next time. Folks, this was the Introduction to Marketing first unit. There should be about 9 more units coming. I appreciate your attention to this slide deck. Should you have any other questions, do reach out to me. You can find me on all of my socials. And I appreciate you for teaching what I believe to be the most valuable classes on campus.